Hi everyone, this is a movie for Chapter 8, Pause and Practice. And I wanted to begin by just going into Blackboard to look at the assignment Dropbox. So I'm in Chapter 8. I'm going to go into the assignments folder. And here is the Pause and Practice Dropbox. And I wanted you to note that there's 4 downloads that you need for this assignment, and 3 of them you can download just by clicking on. So the Excel file, the database, that's the Access database, and then the XSD file, the 4th one, you can just click on it and download. But the SPA sales-08 that .xml, you have to right click and save link as. Otherwise, it'll just, so if I just click on it, you see it'll just open up the data. So just when you get to that one, right click and save your file. The other thing that I wanted you to make note of is that we are not submitting the 8.3-A. We're only going to submit up to 8.3. So I will make note of that when we look at that final pause and practice for the chapter. All right, so I am going to go ahead and get my file open. So I've already downloaded, and I have the pause and practice instructions up. So I want to open up Paradise Lakes. I thought I downloaded it. Maybe I didn't. So I'm going to open up Paradise Lakes. And then I need to bring it over to this screen. I'm going to minimize that. And I'm going to enable. Oh my gosh, Helen. So one of the things that I want you to make note of is down here at the bottom, we have quite a few tabs. And if you don't see all of your tabs, you can use your arrows here to move across. Okay. So first thing we want to do, this whole chapter is about data analysis and business intelligence. So we're going to look at some technologies that are included in Excel that include like scenarios and goal seek. Look at data tables. We're going to look at transforming data. We're going to look at forecasting. And then we're going to look at pivot tables. So this first one is, this first pause and practice is about creating scenarios and using goal seek and problem solver. So if we look at the narrative, in this project you create 3 scenarios for March revenue at Paradise Lakes Resort. You also use Goal Seek and Solver to analyze rebate amounts for recyclables at the current rate. And so scenarios are ways that you can take data and change a factor and see how that affects the bottom line or the outcome of that data. So you could see, okay, if you're going to have less business or more business, how is that going to impact? So that's what we're going to try and work on. So we want to go to the Revenue tab and create a scenario for the original data. So one of the techniques that you always want to do is create a scenario where you don't change anything, and that is the original, so you can always get back to it. Because if you start doing these scenarios and apply them, then your numbers are changed, and so you want to build a scenario that is your original values so you can always return to that. And that's what we're going to start off by doing. So we're going to select cells D4 through D7. So that's March, which is what we're talking about here, March revenue. So we're in revenue and we're looking at March. So we're going to go up to the data tab, and we're going to find the what if, which is in this forecast group, which we really haven't done, but we're going to pick this what if analysis, and we're going to pick scenario manager. Okay. So right now we don't have any scenarios, so we want to go ahead and say we want to add one. Okay. And we have to name it. And one of the nice things is, so like we normally would do like original, and that would place this these values that are currently set in March. It would capture them, so we don't we can get back to them. All right, so by changing cells D4 through D7, right, which is what we want, and then we're going to go ahead and say OK. Now, none of the values were changed. Oops, can't. I just messed up because I was, darn it, I canceled out of that. All right, so let me do this again. Add. It's going to be called original. And we're going to say OK. I'm going to leave my screen alone. OK, so on this, we want to leave all the values because this is our original scenario, right? So we're going to go ahead and say OK, and we're going to close. So now we can always get back to what these March values were. I'm going to close this up a bit. So now we're going to start doing, excuse me, a couple scenarios that are like, okay, well, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? So what if the best thing happens and we get all this revenue? Or what if the worst thing happens and we do record low revenue for that month? So how is that going to impact stuff? So we're going to go back up to that what if analysis, scenario manager, and we're going to add a new one. And this one's going to be called best. And we're still changing those same cells, and we're going to click OK. And then it's going to bring up the values. And so now we want to start changing those. So for rentals, we're going to say, well, okay, what if we get 62,000, which is like our most. So let's try that. And then I'm going to tab excursions 36,000, spa services 20,000. Oh, wait, spa services 28,000, and shop purchases 20,000. So we're going to go ahead and say, okay, these are the values that I want to attach to best. And it's going to bring that up. So now I have original and I have best. I'm going to add another one. This one's going to be called worst. So I'm going to do the same process, but I'm going to do some bad numbers, right? So we're going to do OK. And let's say 55, 30,000. And I'm just getting these numbers right here, guys, from the tables in your instructions. Spa services, 22,000. And shop purchases 20,000. So that's a big difference from the best. The best was 20,000 to 12,000. That's a big reduction. So we're going to do OK. So now we have original, best, and worst. So we're going to close. And now we have some scenarios built. But nothing's happened, right? So what we're going to do is to show a scenario. Right? So we build them and then we show them. Those are two different processes. So what if scenario manager, and then click best, and then we want to click show, right? So down here, we're going to show. And now we can see how that impacts our overall revenue and then our net, right? So much nicer. Where did I go? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close. We're going to select A2. So we left those numbers there. Do you see why it's important to have that original? So if I want to go back to what the real numbers are, instead of this what if analysis that I'm doing, I need those stored somewhere. So we're in A2 and we're going to create a scenario summary report. And then we're going to stop on this movie. So I'm going to finish up with 6 and then we'll stop. Okay, so we're going to go back up to the what if analysis, scenario manager. This time we're going to click this button that says summary. We want to make sure that scenario summary is selected and the result cells should be E8. E8. So right here, this is what changed when these values changed. This is the bottom line that got changed. Okay, that's what we want to see, how this impacted the revenue. We're going to go ahead and click OK. And then a new worksheet is created called Scenario Summary. So what this shows is what the originals were, what the current is, which we applied best, what the best scenario is, what the worst is, and the impact on that one cell through those different scenarios. So it's a swing between 350,000 and 380,000, right? So that's a significant amount if you can achieve the best on those versus the worst. Okay, I'm going to stop this movie at this point and we'll pick up with GoalSeek at step 7. All right, thank you.